Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March the 15th. You are, we're at the Opa-locka Community Development Board meeting. The time is now 5:48. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Bass.
I'm here.
Board Member Dominguez.
Here.
Board Member Taylor.
Here.
Board Member Williams. Vice Chair Davis. Chair Russell.
I'm here.
Attendance confirmed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Madam, may I?
Yes.
For the record, I would like to acknowledge and inform everyone that Board Member Rose Titus will no longer be with us. She gave us her resignation letter this morning. However, I do acknowledge her for being of her great assistance and being with us throughout the many years. I'll allow you, Chair. I'll allow you, Chair, to proceed if you would like to say anything additional.
Yes. I was very saddened to hear about Board Member Titus, the work that she does in this community and have done over the years have been second to none. She's always been dutiful, even after she was no longer a commissioner. So we're definitely going to miss her. And I would like for us to send her a letter of appreciation to let her know that we appreciate the tireless hours that she's given to this board. So thank you very much for that. I was saddened to hear that as well. If you would all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to ask Board Member Bass if she would give us an invocation, please.
Give you honor, give you glory. Lord God, please continue to cover our city. Give us wisdom, knowledge, revelation, and understanding. In your name, amen.
Amen. You may have your seats. Madam Clerk, do we have any add-on? Before we do that, I would just like to say thank you to this board and that sits up here for your kindness shown during the passing of my father, and all of it meant so much to me and to my mom, and for those of you that were at the funeral services. Thank you very much on behalf of my family. We really appreciate it. Just keep my mom in your prayers. They've been together for over 60 years. So, you know, that's a long time, and it was very much unexpected. So ask you all to continue to keep her in your prayers and my family as well. Thank you very much. Can we move the approval of the minutes, please?
Move it.
Moved by Board Member Williams. Mhm.
Second.
Second by Board Member Dominguez. Any corrections? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Board Member Bass.
Yes.
Board Member Dominguez.
Yes.
Board Member Taylor.
Yes.
Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Chair Russell.
Yes.
Minutes passed.
We're getting ready to move into a public forum, but before we do, I'm gonna ask Mr. Delane has a guest in the audience, so I would like to give him ample time to introduce her to us, and floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the Assistant Director with Miami-Dade County's Office of Management and Budget, Mrs. Rasha Kamo. She'll be responsible with assisting CRAs within Miami-Dade County with their day-to-day activities and management of programs, pretty much oversight and assistance. So at this time, I would like to give her just a couple of seconds just to introduce herself to the board if you would like.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. For the record, Rasha Kemo. I was not expecting to speak, actually. I thought I was just going to be in the audience. I've been recently appointed the Assistant Director of the Office of Management and Budget for the past, it's been 2 months. I'm in charge of community redevelopment and municipal services. So my division does annexations, incorporations, and we also work with all the CRAs. There are 16 CRAs in Dade County. I don't think a lot of people realize that. There are 4 county CRAs and there are 12 municipal CRAs. So my job is to help all the municipal CRAs be in compliance with county and state ordinances and rules, and also to make sure that they are doing everything they can to get their mission accomplished. So I'm here as a monitor, but also as a resource to help, do whatever it is that you need to do. I'm very well versed in the Florida state statutes as it comes to CRAs. I'm also a certified redevelopment professional. So I am at your disposal, my cell phone number or my email, as you wish.
Thank you so very much for being in our audience and coming down to the great city of Opa-locka. And we look forward to working with you. I know that it's Delane in the office. The CRA office have already been in contact with you and making sure we're in compliance. And this is a partnership here. We look forward to getting our mission accomplished. And as you know, we are fairly not new, but far as getting ourselves up and going, we're kind of new at it. But I think we're on the right track and we look forward to doing great things, and hopefully we'll make your job easier.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes,
just ask a quick question.
yes.
You said there are 16 CRAs,
Yes,
12.
municipal
Uh-huh.
and 4 county CRAs.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments of anyone that have called in?
Madam Chair, at the moment, I haven't received any public comments via email or phone call, unless Mr. Delane has any, anything you want to add on or say.
Okay,
Okay, at this moment, we don't.
thank you.
Welcome.
So hearing none, we're gonna open public comments. I don't have a gavel, so I just knock on the door. Public comments are closed. I'll just knock on the door again. So we're gonna start with our resolutions. Madam Attorney, please.
Madam Chair, beforehand, I just want to state for the record that item H2 will be deferred. Item H2 will be deferred.
A resolution of the City of Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency Board approving the Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency's annual report for 2021, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Move it.
Moved by Board Member Taylor. Second by Board Member Bass. Discussion. Everyone had an opportunity to look over the annual report that we'll be sending to the county. Mr. Director, you want to say something about the report, please?
Yes, if you look in your packet on page. Give me a brief moment while I pull it up. Page 20. It provides a memorandum basically explaining the purpose of an annual report. This is done every year, pretty much highlighting the successes of the CRA and then lining up a roadmap for the next fiscal year of activities to be carried out through the CRA.
Anyone have any concerns or questions? Comments?
Madam, I have a question
Yes, ma'am.
regarding the budget or the amount that we have, the financial report. It says that there's $3.3 million.
Yes.
Okay, my question is, if we don't use this money, will we lose it? And do we have a certain amount of time to use it?
Can we hold that question until later? We're on this resolution right here, and that is not a part of this resolution, but we'll get to your question shortly. But we're talking mainly now about the annual report. And I would like to say to Mr. Director, this annual report looks very well. Great improvement from what we've seen over the in the past. And you know, I've been a stickler for asking for more detail, up-to-date details in our reporting, because we wanted to reflect what we're doing now, not so much as to what was done in the past, and what we're doing going forward, how we're going to look going forward, so that when someone picks the document up and look at it, it represents us in a positive light. And it looks like we are doing something. We're not just meeting just for meeting. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Looks good on paper. There being no more questions or comments. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Board Member Bass, Board Member Dominguez,
Yes.
Board Member Taylor,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Chair Russell,
Yes.
item passed.
Thank you, thank you. Since the second resolution have been pulled, we're going to discussion. And during the discussion, Board Member Dominguez, will get to your question as well.
Thank you.
Okay? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 46 of your packet, I included another memo that discusses the current activities, just updating on the activities of the CRA, and I'll go through them chronologically. The first item has to do with the memorandum of understanding. This document is reviewed annually by the board to see if there's any alterations or updates that need to be made to this document. So this is an opportunity for us to pretty much review that document, and if there's anything that wants to be added, amended, or altered, this is the opportunity to do so, or at least advise staff what you would all like to amend, and we take that back and make those alterations presented at the following board meeting. There's some questions on that. The next item is in regards to the Opa-locka CRA and the Main Street Opa-locka partnership. As of November 2021, the city of Opa-locka, as well as the Opa-locka CRA, were granted the Main Street Opa-locka program, which is a function of the Department of State and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. This is to assist in the redevelopment and reinvigoration of historic downtowns. And this is something that the city has championed over the past year and a half and was able to put that on. I believe the clerk has an announcement.
Madam, may I?
Yes,
Just for the record, I just would like to inform you that Vice Chair Davis has entered the meeting at 6:02 PM. Thank you.
welcome, Board Vice Chair Davis. Before you move on, Mr. Director, the Main Street project, have we put a budget in place as to how, or some type of plan as to how we planned on expending the funds that we're going to receive?
So staff is currently discussing it. We're working on an agreement between the Main Street program and the CRA, which will pretty much detail the level of partnership with the CRA. And this is being reviewed by other agencies that actually manage Main Street programs. So it's in accordance with standards across the board and other agencies.
Okay,
This is just to bring it to light as an update that this is something that staff is currently working on and will be presenting back to the board.
okay. Does anyone have any questions or concerns concerning the Main Street project? Everybody's good? Okay, Mr. Director, please, once you get that plan together, make sure that the board gets it ahead of time so that if we have any concerns that we can look at it before time. What is the time? What is the turnaround time for this project?
The information should be provided by the next board meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, this is just to advise that it's a work in progress.
okay. All right, we'll be looking for that.
Okay.
Thank you. Next one.
No problem. The next item is the OCRA Small Business Assistance Grant Program. This is something that the board had voted to approve back in December 2021. And staff is currently working with the consultant, the Community Bank of North Dade, who is an affiliate of the Opa-locka Community Development Corporation, in putting together this assistance program. We decided to go with this firm based off the fact that we work with them with the facade improvement program, but we're looking to shift that program to the small business assistance grant with the existing funds that we have for that program. And the qualifications for that organization is they already provide funding assistance for small businesses. So it became essentially a shoe-in to work with this organization. Right now, staff has already put together an agreement between the CRA and the CDFI. And we've also been reviewing with the CRA attorney. That item has been returned and is still going through its last paces before it's brought back to the board at the next CRA meeting for review and approval.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
okay, my only concern, well, not really a concern with the small business grant is when it comes down to the work that's gonna be done, are we gonna use, I know we brought it up before, are we gonna use one general contractor that's gonna do all of the work? That way we can ensure that the work gets done on a timely manner, or are we gonna give it like we did with the facade program directly to the applicant to allow them to pick the company?
So for the small business assistance grant, it's not solely construction based. It's pretty much for whatever the small business may need. But that's why they'll be going through the CDFI, because they'll actually work through that whole process with the small business. Basically, what's the funding going to be utilized for? Constructing an agreement. Basically, they have to expend the funds for this particular activity in order for small business improvement. So it can either be for a construction project, it can be for a back of house operation like bookkeeping, auditing, things like that. So the small business grant will be available for these businesses that need assistance within particular areas.
No,
Now-
I understand that, but I'm saying, are we gonna provide those? Are we providing those companies to do the work? Like, these are the list of are we providing the vendors? There you go. So we can ensure that the work is getting done. So if they want financial services, these are the finance companies that we have. To give you unique construction, these are the construction companies that we have. Do we have a list of vendors that we can provide to the applicants to ensure that the work is done? That's what, if we don't, I would like us to develop that.
This is something that's been requested of the chair. Staff is still working on that list. We're basically piggybacking off the city's list, but in terms of those specific services, that's something that staff is currently putting together. So we will
Okay.
Act on that. And I've definitely made a note of it so we can continue to pursue that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, because Board Member Taylor, I've encouraged staff that we should have a list of vendors that have already been vetted, so that when services are needed, the applicant can go to that list of vendors, just like you say, and they can choose from that list of vendors that have already been vetted. And if there's a bond that's needed, they've been bonded and they're able to perform the work that is being required, whether it's construction or accounting, whatever the service is. So I've been encouraging staff that we need to make sure that we, as a board, get that list of vendors together and have it as part of the packet when the applicants come. So they will have everything that they need and we don't have to, kind of drag it on. Board Member Davis, Vice Chair Davis, I see your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a quick question. I heard Corey Young go over the CRA Small Business Assistant Grant Program.
Mhm.
What is the threshold? What is the amount of that fund, the CDFI fund? Like, how much do we have to expend for small business loans?
The total amount that's being allocated is $88,000. And this is essentially closing out the facade improvement program from the last fiscal year.
Okay, so is that the total fund? Is that what's left? over?
For this particular pilot program is 88,000. We're looking to relaunch it once we close that project out with a different dollar amount to be selected by the board.
Okay, and that's what we're bringing to the table as a city. All right.
Correct.
Are there any, I guess, like matching funds or any additional funds being proffered by the CDFI?
Not at this time, but if the board would like to present that when we bring the agreement back, I'll also ask for the consultant to be here to present and we can make that recommendation at that time.
Okay. Okay, because that was and from my understanding, I guess we're going through the vetting process. Obviously, it's on the attorney's desk and we're waiting, I guess, for an agreement to be put in place. Okay, it's not on the attorney desk, obviously. Sorry, Madam Attorney, but
I think the attorney has been vetting this process, but this is a carryover from the facade program. The dollars, yeah, the dollars that were left over from the facade program to put into this, so we don't kind of lose step.
okay,
as we go.
so we're not, I guess, anticipating the phase two. I know at one point we were talking about maybe doing phase two of the facade program and I guess allocating the funds in that way. So we
Yeah.
kind of scratched that. Okay. All right.
Because the facade program was not your baby.
Right. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the facade program to begin with. So I'm actually happy to see that we are, going in a different direction and that we are looking to put those funds to additional use in the form of, small business loan and give our small business some assistance. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And because as we've said in the past, that everybody on this board is important, and because we don't see it at the beginning, if we can work together, as we work together as a board, then we're able to put things into place to make sure that we're moving it forward. So make sure that we don't lose momentum, and then the community sees as well that we're moving forward with projects, and projects are just not dying along the way. Board Member Williams, I saw your hand.
Yes, quick question, through the chair to Mr. Delane. Will the the Community Fund of North Miami-Dade, I see they're going to be the ones that are actually formulating the grant program. However, will they be carrying the grant program through the vetting process? Will that be the board that after the grant is created, will we carry out the vetting process of the grant? Will that be a separate entity or group of people that you will put together? So I'm wondering how that will look, unless that's their role, is from start to finish to put together the actual logistics of the grant and then carry out the actual vetting process. If that's their role, then I guess you can let me know that. And then also, my next question is, since it's a grant program, there's generally a baseline and then the threshold. What's that baseline? Is it up to a certain amount of beginning at $500, depending on, and I'm just throwing that out, or up to 10,000? So what's that what's that, that linear process of, in terms of how much from baseline or threshold? Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Williams. So with the program, it's pretty much going to be facilitated through the consultant, which is the Community Fund of North Dade. Because they carry out this process internally already with their own operations, it's pretty much secondary to them to do. So they'll be pretty much facilitating from start to end. With future projects, we do have an advisory board that we voted to approve. I believe it was back in January, not January, December. And this board would carry on those activities in lieu of a consultant doing the bulk of the work. So we do have a two-prong approach, but for this particular program, they'll be running it from start to finish. It'll also be presented to the board in the form of updates as they're carrying out their activities. And then we can add that to pretty much whatever that agreement is, how often we need reporting to make sure there's compliance with the objectives of the grant program.
You done?
Oh, and
Threshold.
the threshold. I believe it's starting at $5,000. However, that number is amenable depending on the scope of work or the scope of services that the small business may need. So that number is amenable.
And board members also recognize that this is a process this is a program that's in the process of being worked on. So before it's finalized, the consultant will be coming back to the board for its approval. So if we have any inputs, anything needs to be changed, although they do that line of work already, but still it will be coming back to us to make sure it's approved and it's something that this board wants and is going to carry out that we feel is going to be successful in carrying out in the community. So it's not like they're going to just get the program and they're going to run with it. No, it will be coming back to us for its approval before it's put out on the streets.
And I also would like to add that we'll be putting forth a workshop before the launch of the program to meet with the small businesses as well as with the vendor list, so we can start making those connections and hearing from the small business community what are their needs and concerns. That way we're a little bit more in tune with the funding assistance and the program itself, working with our small business community.
Have we, I guess, explored any grant options? Obviously we're giving grants and we're basically, I guess, taking from the budget to fund this initiative. I come from the nonprofit sector and I've always worked in the development department. So I'm always, just mentally starting from a zero-based budget and, fundraising from that point. I don't really like to take too much from the city's budget. But have we explored any like grant options, or, because I do know there is funding out there for CDFIs, obviously the community fund of North Dade, obviously it's funded basically through a grant, which is how they're able to operate. And I do know us as cities, although we don't have a CDFI, it might be feasible to partner with a nonprofit potentially that has a CDFI, i.e. Community Fund of North Dade, that maybe we kind of missed the ship for this round, but for the second round of funding, or, next year, because, obviously we want to continue a program like that. Maybe we could look at those options to make the program a bit more sustainable down the road. I think.
And also I've asked Mr. Delane to also look at the Community Fund of North Dade to see if they have any matching dollars that can go along with the monies that we have to extend it more. So it's just not our money being put in the pot. So that's also on the table. And in conversation, we've had that conversation with them, if they could come up with some matching dollars to make the pot larger. Okay. Anyone else? All right, let's move on to.
All right, the next item is in regards to the CRA's development assistance programs. So one of the things that the CRA has in its redevelopment plan is looking at assistance for development activities. Right now, staff is currently reviewing CRAs in other cities and other communities, their assistance for development. And what we're looking at is being able to work with entities within the city to kind of help them, straddle the hurdles that come with development, knowing that, construction costs have, gone up tremendously, and there's other costs and fees that are incurred in terms of construction and development. So staff is currently working on putting together programming and an application process to have, potential developers who are interested in building in the city but are looking for assistance to go through this program. That way it can easily be vetted by either the board or the advisory board of the CRA to present to the board to ratify for approval of that assistance program. So that's something that staff is currently reviewing and putting together.
Any questions? Me again. We as a board, I know that staff is working on a lot of documents to get to us. It's important that we are able to get those documents in a timely manner so that we can vet them ahead of time. And if we have concerns, we can contact you. And I know you always set up a meeting with every board member, but even before those meetings, if we have those documents as they become available, you don't have to wait till you get all of them together. If you have the one for this project, for that project, get it to us so that we can vet it ahead of time, that if we have concerns and questions, we can get them answered, or you can at least have an answer for us when we come to the meeting. So please make sure that we're getting all of this ahead of time.
No problem.
Okay.
And then the last item is regards to streetscapes. Hearing the sentiments of the board, also community concern about, beautification activities and, what are we going to do to improve our city's appearance? Within the CRA, we do have the capabilities to provide funding assistance for particular projects, whether it's art and public spaces, streetscape beautification activities such as, sidewalk improvement, anything in terms of aesthetics for beautification of our roadways is within the city's the CRA's purview within the CRA area. Staff was recently approached by a couple of art groups that pretty much do public displays and public art pieces. And staff is pretty much evaluating, what particular projects will we look to go towards, whether it be mural projects or, paint projects on certain utility items, things like that. So those are currently being reviewed by staff prior to being presented to the board for your review and approval on that as well.
Concerns from the board? Yes, Vice Chair.
Not really a concern, but really just a comment. I know that, we do have we've been designated as a tree city since 2014. And we've done various beautification projects throughout the years where we planted trees at parks and various public spaces throughout the city. What I would like to see as far as, streetscape and I guess beautification is maybe, and I know you said a few groups have been reaching out, but maybe more of a focus on the arts. I do know that, art is often used as a redevelopment tool, i.e., the Wynwood area, one of our more popular neighborhoods here in Miami, is taking advantage of that. And I would love to see the city of Opa-locka, really push, I think, the artistic aspect of our community. So, areas like Wynwood, they don't have, the Moorish architecture and some of the jewels that we have here in our city. And I think that if we really just kind of focused on it and market it a certain way, that we can really, benefit as far as beautification and even use it as a revenue stream where we can, maybe go after, not just capital dollars or, small business loan dollars, but also art, right? Like art is also, and can be a revenue strand in itself. So that's the only thing that I would add in addition to, the beautification and the trees and street improvements, is that we also just kind of, focus on the art, even if it's just showcasing our own Moorish architecture and highlighting that aspect of it, or, going after grant funds that can be tied into like local artistic beautification efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, board member. Anyone else? Mr. Delane, I was trying to remember. I'm over 60, almost 65, so I forget. But I was somewhere and they had their light poles were decorated and painted, and they were absolutely gorgeous. They had a lot of bright colors, and it wasn't like no birds or trees or anything. It was just like art, but it was beautiful, and they had it all the way down the street, and it was just gorgeous. I think I was in the city of Miami, and I thought that was absolutely beautiful. I said, and coming down Opa-locka Boulevard, leading up to the historical city hall, that would be beautiful. And because they were such bright colors at nighttime, they had kind of a glow to it. So I would like for us to also look at those streetscapes for lighting, for the light poles. I know we have been talking about light poles and upgrading the lighting. I have a question. When we do as a CRA, if we do streetscapes or put in landscaping, then we're responsible, or would we be turning that over to the city to be responsible, or we would have to get someone to maintain?
Typically through our interlocal agreement, this is something that the CRA can fund and work in tandem with the city in terms of the implementation of these streetscape projects. If we so choose and get up to the capacity, then we can bring on another firm to manage that operation.
Okay, because you got the board that's sitting up here are also commissioners, so they don't be giving the city no more money that they got to be trying to find in their budget. So we don't want to scare them that oh, we got to find money in the budget. But in these projects that we put together, one thing that most of the time is missing is maintenance. They're beautiful projects. They start out beautiful, but then there's no maintenance. So whenever we put together anything has to do with landscaping, painting, we need to make sure that we embed in that project a maintenance packet. So we can't just look at it as a temporary thing. We have to look at it a long term, because you could put in grass, but if you don't water it or maintain it, it's going to be dead. So please, let's make sure that we put a maintenance packet together if we're going to be doing any type of landscaping, even with painting. After a few years, you got to go back, you got to repaint it, if you want it to look nice. So we're not just doing it for show for now, we're doing it to improve our community long term. Okay, all right. Because you always remind us that we are, how many years we have as a CRA? 20, so we don't have that many years until we have to be self-sustaining. So let's always keep that in our mind as well. Okay.
Yes. And then Madam Chair and the board, I have 3 other updates that I didn't include in this. I'll keep them very brief. Very brief. Okay. The first one, I'm happy to announce that the CRA in conjunction with the city has been awarded One grant that I know of that I'm working on with one of our local partners. It's a grant it's a grant through COVID funds for health disparity in underserved communities.
Right.
And this grant is actually being afforded to work with one of our local developers, and he's actually in the audience, Mr. Ario Lundy with Palmetto Homes, to assist him working with Miami-Dade College in creating a construction training program for residents of the city of Opa-locka. The grant dollar amount is $500,000, and we'll be looking to work with 10 students from the city of Opa-locka who will be, this is essentially paid training. So from day one, they're paid employees. And this will be a year-long program for training of these residents to be employable. And then once their training program is done, they'll be hired right on the spot. So we did get that grant. And also want to announce that we're also in the running for the African American Cultural Arts Grant for funding to go into creating a cultural arts center within historic city hall. So that we're also in the running for that as well. And that's also $500,000. The next update, staff has been discussing the update of the CRA plan. This is something that needs to be done every 7 years. And staff is recommending that the board takes a look at this in terms of allocating funding to get that back online. So we'll be presenting that item at the next CRA meeting. And then
Before you, what kind of dollar amount are we looking at to upgrade that plan? Or you don't know, or maybe Mr. Gay can help us out with that since he's done plans in the.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Gregory Gay. Typically, when it comes to updating of master plans, it depends on to what extent the master plan is going to be updated. One of the things that we are looking at doing in reference to this particular master plan is one, updating as it relates to the projects that are associated with the plan, and extending the timeline of the plan as it relates to when all CRAs are supposed to sunset. As it stands right now, our plan is supposed to sunset in 2033. And there was legislation that was passed a couple of years ago that all CRAs should sunset in 2039. So if we were to do an update to our plan, we need to extend our plan at least to 2039. That gives us an additional 6 years of activity for the CRA. And that's some of the short-term things that we would be looking at. Long-term, there is a possibility of expanding the boundaries of the CRA. So we need to explore all of those particulars and that may be involved with the updating of the CRA. With that being said, if we were to look at our short-term goals of updating the CRA, we're probably looking at a plan that will probably be somewhere between $80,000 to $100,000. And if we're looking at extending it to the point of expanding the boundaries, that price will probably go up an additional $40,000 to $50,000. So you're looking at about between $100,000 to $150,000 to update and expand in relationship to for the CRA master plan. Any questions?
I see Vice Chair Davis, as you know, you said about 150, I'm about to jump out this chair.
And I know everybody's looking like, wow, 150,000, right? But this is why I'm going to tell you guys why it's basically worth it from at least from my perspective, from a cost benefit perspective, which is the more long-term points that Mr. Gates spoke about, which is expanding the boundaries. So obviously, right now we have a certain segment of our community that's outlined as our CRA area. And it really limits us as to, what we can do. And, it really ties our hands. By expanding the boundaries, what that would allow the CRA to do is ultimately expanded CRA area. And with that obviously comes, more a larger jurisdiction, but also more funds. So we will actually take in more money as a CRA because we have a larger
larger area. yeah,
Right.
to-
So
to
while we're,
collect funds.
while initially we're spending 150,000, and this is something that I brought up when it was budget time, but we didn't, we decided whatever reason not to go in that direction. But it's very important that we do put this forth, because not only would it significantly expand the scope of projects that we're able to take on as a CRA, but it would also expand the boundaries and the general CRA area, which will offer more of a return, bringing more funds in so that we could do more projects.
If I may add, one of the reasons that the price change is somewhat significant is that if you're expanding the boundaries of the CRA, you have to do a new finding of necessity, which is a separate study in order to determine the need for expanding the boundaries. So that is an exercise that we will have to go through. That in itself can fluctuate between $40,000 to $60,000. We have a somewhat small area that we'll be working with. So hopefully we will be able to work within that particular budget frame. But then when we're looking at extending the timeline of the CRA and dealing with the actual update itself, those budget numbers are pretty much what they are. And to be quite honest with you, with the state of the economy as it is right now, where everything is going up, we can anticipate that the cost for those services will probably increase as well.
When I have a question, when we're looking at, just for my mindset and the mindset of the board, when we're looking at possibly expanding the boundaries, would we be looking at more like industrial biz area where there are industrial businesses, or would we wouldn't be looking more at areas that are more residential, right? We'll be looking at areas where they could develop more.
It would be a combination, more so probably it will be more residential and commercial. So you're probably looking at more so with the eastern portion of the city, not necessarily the western portion of the city. One of the things that we had noted through our studies over the years is that the existing boundaries are pretty much north of the CXX right of way, from 17th Avenue all the way over to the connector. And there are commercial portions of the city that are outside of the CRA, south of the railroad right of way, especially along 22nd Avenue and 27th Avenue. And there are definitely areas of opportunity there. There's definitely areas of slum and blight that need to be addressed. That is a key component to as a part of the finding of necessity. But there will be an opportunity to expand those along those particular corridors. So we're not necessarily looking at strictly into the residential areas, but more so along those commercial border areas that have the opportunity of the greatest amount of growth, as well as the opportunity for a significant amount of TIF to be generated for the redevelopment.
Sounds good, and it helps. We have new board members as well that is not, well versed on the CRA. So it helps them as well know that what we're trying to do is to eliminate blight, and a lot of those businesses over in those areas could really use some help. And a lot of those businesses have been there for long periods of time. They're not like new businesses coming in. So to help them out would really be good. So any questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Through the chair to Mr. Gay, because I'm looking at here on the updated CRA plan to expand the border areas. You have west side of 22nd Avenue to south of State Road 9 to 135th Street. So I think my question is what Madam Chair was asking. That west side of 22nd, isn't that all not industrial, residential? Because that's that, what is that, Helen Miller area?
Yes, there's a portion.
So it's the southwest part.
There's a portion of it that is residential. There is some commercial that is also mixed in.
But not in that
The
area.
zoning for that area is actually commercial.
Mhm.
But there are some residential projects that are within that area. And that's one of the things that I want to speak about real quick. The way the boundary was established when the first plan was actually put in place, it went down the center of the street. So in essence, you had commercial and residential properties. Half of them are in the CRA and the other half are not in the CRA. They're owned by the same property owners, but they don't have the advantage of utilizing CRA funds to support the entire project on both sides. And we also have city-owned properties that are in between the commercial area and Siegel Park that could be also a part of a redevelopment opportunity.
So just to get a mental map, we're talking South State Road now, so all of the industrial part in the, I'm gonna just say the Siegel Park area, which is behind Nathan B. Young, that whole industrial area. Then if you come down to where Ingram Park is, where the junkyards are in the warehouse area, that's where we're gonna adopt.
We're looking at that particular area.
Those particular
Reason
areas.
being, it is zone commercial, even though it is an industrial activity at this time. We will hope that there will be some opportunities to motivate the property owners to either look at redevelopment opportunities or to sell for other developers to take that on.
And my last one, are we going all the way east to 17th Avenue? And the only reason why I ask, because I know there are underdeveloped areas on 17th Avenue. So are we going there too, or?
That would all be something that would be
Oh,
discussed as a part of the
okay,
finding of
during that time,
necessity. So
okay.
we would have to basically move toward that. That could be put as part of the scope of services in order to have an analysis done in relationship to that particular
In
corridor.
regards to boundaries, I don't know if you can answer this question or if it actually exists. Is there a certain percentage of the city that a CRA can take?
That's something that varies from CRA to CRA. There are some CRAs that incorporate a large portion of a municipality, and then there are some that incorporate just a small portion. Our CRA, as it stands right now, only occupies 18% of the city. So we see that there is at least an opportunity to expand it. Even if we were to look at expanding along these particular corridors, I seriously doubt we would get up to the 40 or 50% point of that area being part of the CRA.
Okay. I was saying our city not that big, so can the CRA take the whole city?
I don't think you want to do that.
I think there is a, listen, there is a percentage, there's a percentage.
That's why I asked. We not that big now.
Board Member
But-
Williams, Board Member, you wanted to respond to?
No, I
Board
just,
Mem-
I just wanted to say one thing, whatever area that we outline as a CRA, I mean, you want, it's just like anything else from a cost benefit perspective, you want the area where you're going to receive the biggest return, right?
Yes.
What
That's what
area,
that's why I was concerned about
Right.
the bulk of that residential area.
Yeah,
right?
And as opposed to going more eastward towards that area where there is no development. Because we can be more of a use there as opposed to that Siegel Park
yes.
Siegel
yes.
Park area. That's why I asked it. But I'm with my colleague.
Board Member Williams,
Through the chair to Mr. Delane or Mr. Gay, who can, what I would like for us to do, and I'm all for expanding the boundaries and creating a new plan. Of course, we have a lot of plans. There's always a lot of plans. I've always said that. What I would like to do, why you laugh? What I want us to keep our eyes on the prize and make sure that 18% that we currently have under the CRA plan, the existing plan, that we're doing something with that 18%. We need to move the needle to make sure that if we're talking about expansion, that it will be off or not if we're not moving any needles with the 18% that we have.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's just continue to keep our eyes focused on, and although all that sounds great, and I think it does to encapsulate more of the city, But I just want us to make sure that we're continuing to do the projects and the things that we said we're going to do. Little slow, it's been a little slow, but we see movement. The needle needs to move a little faster. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Someone? Oh, okay. You were responding?
I would just like to say that we are definitely in concert with you. We don't want to forsake what was already presented as a part of the plan and not move those particular items forward. But where there is opportunities to expand, that's where we would like to capitalize as well, going into the future.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Gay.
My pleasure.
Before we move any further, we're gonna get to Mr. The money man, right? Because that's Board Member Dominguez. But before we get there, we need to put a timeline with some of these things that we're gonna be bringing back. We don't want to just leave the window open. We need to say, Mr. Delane, in I don't even want to hear 90 days, 60 days, we'll have, or the next board meeting, we'll have the plan together or the contract together with the fund. You need to give us something to look forward to. Can we have that tonight? At least a window. We need something to say that in 30 days, we'll be able to accomplish this. You'll bring back the contract for this project to move forward. In the next 60 days, we'll have the contract for this because we're already into March. Then we're going to be in the summer months and it'll be the end of the year. And we haven't gotten the projects off the ground. So we need a timeline as to when we're going to be moving forward with these projects.
Madam Chair, I agree. And when we provide these updates, we'll provide timelines to each one to provide an indication of where we are with them and when we're expecting to complete those projects.
Give me a timeline.
You'll have this by the next meeting. So within 30 days, each of these items.
Board members, that's sufficient. He said within 30 days, next meeting, we'll have at least a draft of these items. Yes, no, yes, maybe.
Timeline, right?
Yes. Okay. All right.
And then my last update is just to acknowledge that we'll be having our next Bazaar on the Boulevard event on Saturday, March 22nd. It'll be at Historic City Hall between 3 and 9 p.m.
The 22nd? That's
26th, excuse me.
26. It's a lot going on that day. March the 26th. I think those are some, because it's Women's History Month, I think they have some things planned. You didn't talk to the commission, but I think on the commission time, let's not take our time, but I think they have some things scheduled through the commission. So,
Noted.
anyway,
But will there be food? Like last
Yes,
time?
there will be food. We
Food
have a lot more
trucks.
time to advertise.
Okay,
Well-
I was asking for a friend.
Yeah, she has a big-
Don't worry, the friends told me also. There will be
Exactly.
food.
But not to be a Debbie Downer, Mr. Delane. I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
yes, sir.
The event that we had, the Bazaar on the Boulevard, the first one was great. But if no one is there to see it, we got to do better with advertisement. And I know my colleagues have stressed that before, we got to get the word out. Because yeah, we had a consistent flow, but it was a nice event, but it was too nice that we didn't have a good turnout. So I want us to develop a marketing plan for how we're going to attract our residents to come out. We got to get the word out.
And because for me, because we have not advertised yet this month, and we're already, today is the 15th. I think we're moving in a very tight window
That's
to
tomorrow.
advertise.
That's tomorrow.
So think about it. We don't want to throw salt in the game, but we want whatever we do to be productive. I don't want to just have a bazaar just for the sake of having it, and we don't get the results that we're looking for. Everything should be result driven. We shouldn't just be doing it for the sake of doing it because it costs money. It costs money. So can you please rethink tomorrow, get with staff or whomever and kind of rethink this month? Because we're already into, today's the 15th and you're talking about 26, that's 2 weeks, you know, so please think about that and then get back with us, please.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if I may,
sir.
if I can, even if we could look at like some sort of incentives, I know that incentives always work well when drawing the community out, obviously. Some of our better tended events seem to be those where we give out gift cards or other sort of incentives that tend to mobilize our community. So we could look at maybe, I don't know, we have a small business program, so maybe, I know that that was an incentive that we used when we used to do small business bazaar or events, which is maybe you can offer technical assistance to business, right? Small businesses always need marketing and obviously help with accounting and, you know, their books and that sort of thing. So that was a big a draw to get like, you know, the vendors out. But as far as like community members, you know, door prizes, right? Like everybody loves, you know, door prizes. Maybe we can do raffles or, you know, just, I don't know, any, you know, I mean, obviously you're sitting in the administrative seat and you're, you know, working on the day-to-day kind of sort of planning with these initiatives so you can come up with options, but just some sort of incentive. And I think advertising that would be a good starting or focal point.
Sounds good to me that if you could, that would help draw the people in the community, but advertising. You know what I like, signs, big signs that capture attention when they coming into the city, the big signs. Okay?
I'm taking all the feedback. And to that point, CRA, when we initially looked at putting this program on, we did have a firm in terms of the PR and marketing activities. However, since that is transitioned, we're basically working through that process also.
Okay.
So, you know, we want to work in tandem with a firm, depending on the city selects a PR and marketing firm to work with. If not, then the CRA will look at options to go through its procurement process and select a firm to carry out its public relations and marketing activities. So that is something that we're keeping our eye on, and you know, we have to roll the punches on that. But we are doing our due diligence and making sure that these items are advertised through our existing channels.
Okay, and make sure that if that's done, that it's a policy in place, because we don't want to do anything without having a policy that this board have agreed on, that this is the policy that we're going to use. We can't just jump and do things without having policy and procedure in place that have come to the board and the board have approved it before it's done. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Money time. Yes, sir.
They just, Mr. Anderson.
Because board member Dominguez had a question about finances.
Hi, good evening, Bob Anthony, City Budget Administrator. I think the question asked is best answered by the representative from the county. I think I know an approximate answer. I think the question asked is what happens, do you use it or lose it? And I think I understand it, but I think she understands it much better. So I'm going to defer to her if that's okay.
Well, a board member Dominguez, but we know we're not going to be losing any money around here because we're going to be using it. But
I
if,
just-
if she would like to, you're more than welcome to be a part of this family.
Madam Chair, she said no. She said no.
This is one of the reasons why, I don't like to stay after I introduce myself, right? Because I'm part of the discussion. So for two things. One, state statutes and also in your interlocal, you're not supposed to have funds unencumbered. So the CRA is created to remove sum and blight. So
Mhm.
if you use a redevelopment plan, you will have enough projects to fund for the
Yes.
years. So you need to have allocated it into projects, development, business development, incentives, residential programs, events. You have to do that. The statute says if you don't do that, if it's not tied to debt or a project, the taxing authorities can reclaim the funds. And I think that's the question that you needed. So the taxing authorities right now are the city of Opa-locka and Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County contributes 40% of your TIF
Mhm.
every year. So if we were to come back and analyze and see that those funds were not ever allocated for a few years, we can actually say, you need to refund us those funds.
So as long as there is a plan,
Yes.
You have to
Right.
encumber it, yes.
Yeah.
And another
a
point,
plan.
yeah, you have a redevelopment plan, you have an action plan. You have to encumber the funds. And just since I have the mic, I just want to say, since there are city commissioners here and the CRA board as well, to be cautious that you don't mix city projects with CRA projects.
Yes.
And then, you can enhance any city project you want, like the lights that you were talking about and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And as long as you encumber it, you can do a budget amendment over the years if the project does not continue.
Mhm.
But as I, met with your staff and Mr. Wright, I made the recommendation. You have enough programs in your downtown master plan that I reviewed. And when you do update your redevelopment plan to fund these projects. Okay.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Board Member Dominguez, does that answer your
Oh,
question?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. So we as a board, we have been diligent over the last year, maybe year and a half, in making sure that we have projects to move forward. We just need to move them. As Board Member Williams, we acknowledge that the needle needs to be moved. Mr. Director said, manager, I think they call you. Mr. Manager said that the next meeting, he'll be bringing back some contracts with the approval of the attorney, that they have gone through the attorney and be brought back to us for vetting so that these projects can get on the road. And you could see some foot movement. The bazaars are good. It brings some attention to what we're doing as a CRA, but we need to also see projects moving.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so what Mr. Delane was talking about earlier for the contract, it's the small business contract that has been approved by me. It has gone to the OCRA for review, and then it will come back, and then that's when it will come to you all.
Okay.
So we've done our part on this side. Now we have to see if they agree to the terms that we, specified, and then once it comes back, and then it will come to you all. But that's the contract that he was referring to.
Okay. All right. Well, we are moving forward. I'm looking forward to some of the projects. I think I heard someone also mentioned, I don't know whether it was this meeting or another, a couple of meetings back, that we could also look at some type of a paint project for residents. So that's something that the CRA, as long as those homes are within the CRA area, we can't go outside the CRA area, but that's also a project that we could look at through which one of those initiatives you think that could go?
Madam Chair, this is actually one of the development incentive items that the board voted and approved on back in November.
Mhm.
It was the Plant Patent Pave program.
Okay.
And what the CRA staff will be doing is putting together the list of criteria for that particular program and application process for the board to review and approve.
Okay. So we do have some foot on the ground, and our manager said that he's going to bring back to our next meeting, which will be in April, for us to at least approve some of the projects that we've already started so that they can move forward.
Madam Chair, can we have a list of projects that were budgeted for this fiscal year as well? Just so the board, obviously, I know we have new board member, well, one new board member that wasn't here when we initially voted on the budget. And obviously, it's been a long time since we reviewed many of the capital projects that were included or outlined. So yeah, if we can just get an overview of what projects were budgeted under the CRA for this fiscal year. I think that'd be very beneficial, not only to myself, but other board members as well.
Okay. All right, can, Mr. Manager, can he get, Vice Chair Davis, can he get that to you? And also make sure that Board Member Dominguez gets a copy of all the projects that we have coming down the pipe. And
Yeah,
it probably will
not
be,
just capital, but all projects. I know I said capital, but all projects that were fully budgeted and funded for this fiscal year.
and you know what, probably would also be a good idea if, I know you have meetings with us, if you would meet with Board Member Dominguez also and go over all the projects one by one in more of a personal setting, so she'll understand any questions that she may have. She'll get all the answers that she needs.
Will do.
Okay? All right, everybody straight? Motion to adjourn. I didn't hear it.
Second.
We didn't vote on the